All right, and we are live. Welcome, good evening, good day, good morning, whatever part of the world you're in. This is the Mozilla Curriculum Workshop. This is our inaugural episode on International Women's Day. This is Chad Sansing. I'm a curriculum developer for Mozilla, and thrilled to have our guests here, thrilled to have our viewers here, and excited you could join us. This program tries to answer the question, how do I teach and learn the things I care about on the web? And so we're going to start a conversation tonight with some fantastic guests about what we might prototype together towards that end, specifically tonight regarding women's issues, rights, and accomplishments. And to continue introductions, I'm going to throw it over to our co-host, Amira Dhalla.
Thanks, Chad. Hello, everyone, and it's really great for you to join us, whether you're watching us live or you're watching us later on. We are really excited to launch our Mozilla Curriculum Workshops with this International Women's Day Special Edition. We at Mozilla really want to curate and create opportunities that allow for accessibility on the open web, and what better way to start it than on this day. So we really wanted to curate some of the people in our networks and great minds that have been creating change in the system and in their organizations and in the communities for many years, and have them join together on this call to test with us what it would be like to create curriculum for women and girls. And so they are very, very brave souls, because they are definitely joining us on this adventure that they aren't really sure of, but we're going to go with it and see what happens and see where the next hour takes us. So thank you for joining us, and happy International Women's Day to all of the individuals on this call, and thank you in advance. So I'm going to actually pass it, and we'll do short introductions of everyone who's here with us, a little bit about where they are, what they do, and what really brings them to this, this webinar with us. So I'm going to pass it, starting with Ingrid.
Hi everyone, my name is Ingrid Hudal, and I'm the Senior Director of Education and Field Building at BAVAC, which is a media lab and tech nonprofit here in San Francisco, California, where I'm joining all of you. We've been around for about 40 years. It's actually our 40th birthday, and we believe in empowering media makers all over the place and inspire social change through art, education, and technology. So I'm here today because I am launching our very first Young Women's Leadership Fellowship program called Bridges. And I've been developing leadership curriculum for it. I've been working a lot with mentors, women in media and tech industries locally here in San Francisco. So I'm very excited to be joining the conversation.
Nice, thank you, Ingrid. Claire, take us away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So hi, I'm Claire Sherrill. I'm apparently just across the bridge from Ingrid because I'm in Oakland, California. So hi, neighbor. Yeah, so I lead computer science education for Oakland Unified, and it's a position that I've held for this school year. It's been really exciting for me because we've gone from about 730 kids taking computer science at the high school level this year, and that's actually where the main concentration of our courses are, to next year having access for about 22,000 kids. So explosive growth, really exciting. Yeah, I come at this, I actually know a ton about the gender gap in technology. It's very evident if you're living in the Bay, but the gender gap does not exist within my CS classes. In fact, my CS classes, and I still teach, are overpopulated by girls. We have to do things to grab boys to get them in there. But yeah, girls in computer science is near and dear to my heart. I currently have 9 freshmen studying CS at a UC or CSU. So they're coming tech sector. Just wait for them. And I'm excited to do this with all of you.
Thanks, Claire. I think we're already seeing the diverse range and very talented and skilled group of audience that we have joining us. And what better way to lead into Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Wilkins. Can you hear me? Did I unmute right?
Yep, we got you.
Great. So I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm the founder of Tech Girls, which is an organization where I'm trying to get more girls interested in computer science and technology. We run programs from kindergarten all the way up through high school, and also just recently started a Charlottesville Women in Tech group. So now we also reach out to adults. And started in 2012 because I went to the 2010 Grace Hopper Celebration of Women in Computing and learned about the 18% of women were graduating with computer science degrees, and that was way less than when I was going to school. So I just became very passionate about this issue and have been doing Teach the Web activities for several years now, and just feel like the philosophies match so well with reaching other groups that are underrepresented in tech.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we have our very esteemed colleagues behind the scenes, Paul and Christina, who are also helping out. So early in advance, kudos and thank you to them as well.
Absolutely. Thank you all. The great round of introductions. So glad to be here with you. Before we dive into conversation, I do want to note for our viewers that we, on our landing page, and we'll find a better way to share this, it's teach.mozilla.org/community/curriculum-workshop. On our landing page, we have a live etherpad. So we have a live agenda and chat roll that you can participate in, even if you're not on the call. So as you listen tonight and you have questions or inspirations or lines of inquiry that you wonder if we might take with you, please do not hesitate to type directly into that agenda or to ask questions in the pad. Christina and Paul will be alerting us to questions that are asked, topics that come up. So please do take advantage of those interactive ways that you can participate on the call, even as a viewer this evening. All right. So, Amira, you and I have had a chance to see some awesome kinds of ideas and survey results and survey responses come back from our guests. And so, like me, I bet you have just a lot of questions or questions you want to re-ask to have something surfaced. Do you want to start? Pitch a question?
Sure. I'd love to start. I always wonder, and this is a question that's on a lot of people's minds often, is how do teaching styles differ from women and girls than like a general, both genders, let's put it that way. So what is it that we need to change about our teaching or that we need to adapt in order to actually teach women and girls that we would do differently than other educational settings? So that's a question I personally have and I love to solve and I know has come up very often. So I would love to maybe focus on that as we discuss is what do we do differently?
I don't mind hopping in on that one first. I think that there's been a push to sort of pinkify tech, right? Or if I make something that is inherently interesting to girls, that is sufficient. And I really caution against that mindset of let's just make it dolls and pink and girls will just flock to it. There's some really interesting research that came out of practices at Harvey Mudd that was highly publicized this week. And it resonates with my experience in the classroom. Essentially, what Harvey Mudd did was they took their freshman computer science class and they made one for people who had experience and one for people who hadn't, and made the one for people who hadn't had experience highly collaborative and project-based and teamwork. And for me, that sort of affirmation of the group and a sense of collective understanding and collective ownership has been one of the ways in which I've been able to engage young women. I think, yeah, the more that we get down the road of like what interests girls, I think then we're pigeonholing them. And good teaching practices are good teaching practices, and I think maybe our young women are more discerning about the way that content is being delivered to them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Also, I feel like traditionally computer science and coding courses have been all about the language, And that's not appealing to women, and actually really a lot of people. You will grab way more people if you focus on the project and give them something meaningful to do with the code they're creating. So I think a lot of it is this traditional way that we've been doing sort of tops down. You have to understand everything first before you can dive right in, which is what I love about Teach the Web and the tools that you provide, is that no, you dive right in and start creating projects, and then you learn as you're going. And I think that appeals to girls and frankly a whole lot of other people.
I think it's really important to add cohort-based learning for young women. I've seen a lot when you have all girls in, like, say, an after-school program, and it's just them. They really learn how to build community, and that is absolutely what they're going to need to succeed in any career. The tech career especially is challenging right now. There's a reason why there's more diversity specialists and an initiative to have inclusion and belonging. There's a huge exodus, mass exodus of women in tech and women in STEM. So part of the solution is not just the kind of curriculum that we delve into for girl-specific programming and training, confidence building, leadership development, how to be a good mentor and supporter of one another, but also changing the climate of the media and tech industries at large.
I really, really like all those answers. Ingrid, can you define a little bit what cohort-based learning means? I think that that might be a new term for a lot of people, including myself. I have some assumptions on what it means, but I'd love to hear more about what that is.
Sure. To me, that means bringing people together as a group that you pre-identify and select. So for us, it would mean like, hey, we present and recruit all girls for a specific program that occurs from this date to that date. And as a group, they experience everything together, whether that's hard skill training, coding, career readiness, public speaking, confidence raising, etc. So as they develop that, they also build a trust with one another. They understand, I would say, how to network. Like, oh, this is my peer network. Oh, we're meeting all these mentors in tech. Oh, we did this together as a group. Now we have a LinkedIn. Maybe we're doing things, tinkering on LinkedIn. And I think, those are the kinds of things that you might lean back on after you leave that physical space. It could mean a physical space of high school or the after-school program or college. But then if you have that experience, I've seen that women actually stick together, remember each other, refer each other more often and frequently, and are more willing to become a mentor to other women coming up.
Nice. I like that peer-to-peer mentorship. That's always critical. Chad, do you have a question you want to throw in the ring?
Yeah, totally. All this talk about compelling teaching and learning practices, cohort-based learning, peer-to-peer learning, strikes a chord and really resonates with me. I'm curious about, I guess one way to look at it is looking online, looking at resources on the web, both things people can go to and kind of learn from that might be there already as content or tools, but also maybe looking at communities on the web, just looking broadly at the web. Where are some strong examples of the kinds of teaching and learning you'd like to see more of, and completely reference and describe your own work in greater detail here as you go after those things. But curious about kind of positive precedents that capture the kind of teaching and learning that we're interested in here, and maybe also identifying needs for more of it. What isn't there yet, or what would we like to see there that we don't have now that would support the teaching and learning we've been describing in our answers so far? If that makes sense. That was my 17-part question in 3 chapters, so thanks for bearing with me.
That was a doozy. Do you want to sum it up to like a one, or Claire
Yeah,
looks like she's ready to jump in maybe, but how would you clarify it into a one sentence and then Claire will jump in?
Sure. Looking at the web, what's working right now in terms of the teaching and learning we're going after, and what needs still exist?
So when I was listening to your question, I was thinking about what's working as far as teaching computer science. And I think Kim raised a really interesting point about sort of a paradigm shift from you have to have all the basics down in order to be able to build something. which, like, when we think about the way we teach math or the way that we teach writing, like, very frequently it's sort of deductive in the sense that, like, kids need certain skills and then they can solve harder problems. I do really appreciate I'm using code.org's computer science principles curriculum because it allows us to engage with some really relevant questions to my students right off the bat, and it is language agnostic. I think anything where we actually, the block-based languages I think are a really interesting push towards getting kids to be able to create something without the fear of syntax error. So just like that whole, there's a spectrum of different platforms that are being used in that way. I don't know, in many ways though, it's interesting that you frame this as something on the web. What I would push back on is sort of outsourcing teaching to the web. So there's a lot of web platforms that are sort of designed to take the content expertise away from the teacher, and then the teacher's just sort of facilitating. And I think that that's a really interesting way to solve that problem, but that we should start thinking about how teachers can facilitate classroom experiences that get at the same things, just because I don't know yet if the blended learning approach is as powerful as the things that described at, say, Harvey Mudd, or what I see in my own classroom, where kids get to grapple with some interesting questions unplugged prior to actually getting on the computer and building.
I was going to suggest, oh, sorry, Kim. Just my really quick answer is I think that open source software is really important. You know, I see a lot of young girls reverting to GitHub because they can share like their code and the kind of software that they aim to develop. But I also think there's so many meetups that are, you know, you go on the web, you see where meetups are for young women and women who are maybe more senior who can go and learn more about JavaScript and teach each other. So that's definitely happening a lot here in the Bay Area, and I think that's really important. And web plays a role in that.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think Scratch is a great model for building a community and being able to share your projects and remix them, and obviously Teach the Web is going in that same way. One of the things I think actually software development is changing so much in the agile development process is something that we're bringing into. I also teach computer science K through 8 at a school here, and so we're actually bringing that methodology in, and that could be so used across the curriculum. So it's a kind of interesting way to sneak in computer science lessons as well.
There's also been a trend since here in the San Francisco, there's a lot of push on, you know, computer science as being ingrained throughout like the entire learning experience of young people. And one of the things that we've seen working like for a while, the urge to have computer science be attractive was seen as an opportunity to partner with Zynga.org. So 2 of their academy schools through San Francisco public school system joined up with Zynga.org to create game design academies. And I think it's a really interesting model. It's a 2-year for juniors and seniors model program that has built in like somewhat cohort-based learning, a lot of push for gender equity, and a lot around representation and using game design as a foray into computer science. So I think that's really smart. I've seen a lot of really great results from that. I actually partnered with Zynga.org on a summer component of that, a little more advanced for the girls who completed their junior year in the academy. And then you see how there's built-in internships for students over the summer at like a Zynga, which is really important. I know Salesforce is now supporting San Francisco Unified for the computer science pathways that they want to see integrated. So I think partnerships like that is really critical, and being very creative. I think everybody who's you know, on this call and on the panel are creative in their approach with computer science, and it's very important.
Yeah, I have a heavy agree to what everyone just said. I think partnerships are key. I think going in with open minds and creating avenues for people, whether there's various experiences or, different backgrounds in education, providing opportunities for everyone to jump in has really been key. And on the web, I just love that there's so many communities that, depending on what you like or what your style is or where you're from, you can find those communities to plug into that make sense for you, and that really have value to you. And I have found that myself personally, just being able to, wherever I go in the world, find communities that make sense, or just people that I think I can relate to. So I do cherish those a lot. I think we're heading on to the next section. Chad, are you going to take us away?
Yeah, absolutely. What a delight to listen to this conversation. I think there's so much common ground here in figuring out how to bring people together and to grapple with ideas and concepts and to help one another understand them, not necessarily independent of, but in really complementary ways to approaching the technology. It's fantastic. I think maybe what could happen next is we can invite our guests to talk a little bit about some of the ideas they had for prototypes, things that we might try to design or storyboard or begin building together that would help advance curriculum development on International Women's Day for women's rights, accomplishments, issues on the web, ways we could share that work on the web and help carry it forward. So I'd invite anyone to go ahead and to start off and to kind of share some of the ideas that you have shared with us, or anything else that's been sparked by this conversation. And in the next 5 to 10 minutes, I think it'll probably become apparent, like, oh yeah, let's hack on that together, or we'll go to this corner of the web, we'll start here, we're going to start this, and we'll figure it out. We'll take the next little bit of the episode here to surface those ideas and figure out what to do with them.
So one idea I have is, if the media and tech mentors of the world would actually be part of curriculum development and offering feedback, looking at a sample, seeing like, oh, well, how is it delivered? Is this actually something that could be relevant, and how is it translated into a real life work experience? That the girls could then say, hey, here's something, a product or a solution that's trying to be solved. How would young girls together be part of that? And that could be in the US, it could be in India, it could be in China, and wonderfully shared. I think that would be great to see young people coming together around the globe with support from mentors chiming into the curriculum. So I don't know how we could prototype that, but I suspect that, Chad, I bet you that Kim or Claire might have existing curriculum. I do. Mine's very specific to leadership, but in terms of in-school-based curriculum, that would be very interesting to me to see it being open source, and for really thoughtful mentors in media and tech to chime in.
Oh, you want to go, Kim?
So my thought, and I love that we have media and tech here, is I've been trying this experiment with YouTube with their recommended videos, where I only try to watch ones that have a woman in it, and it's surprisingly difficult to find that. And so that has me thinking, is it the algorithms? Is it what I watch? What's going on? And I would really like to provide a curriculum that helps us share the creations of the girls and the women, so that they're, now YouTube has this Women Create hashtag, and they're trying to get more female contributors to YouTube, but just creations. There's a lot of tools out there where you can create something in Scratch, you can create artwork with processing, you can do all these creations, but then how are we helping women and girls share that out? So that was my thought.
That's awesome. I think so. My idea is a little bit more connected back to Ingrid's, but so I work with seniors, and they have to do a senior capstone project, which is a research and action project. You can probably envision what like a typical high school senior would be expected to do at the end. But I would like all the kids in my class to make technology related to their project. And because they're doing really meaty things like issues around transgender youth, gentrification, structural oppression within schools, like things that are super heavy and need to be shared or uplifted, I think technology is an incredible medium for them to be able to make real impact and change on these issues. But sort of like Ingrid was thinking, I think a lot of the projects that girls would be interested in doing are sort of beyond the scope of what they've done in class. And so I was thinking about how you make really meaningful mentorships between students and industry mentors in the project, in alignment with a project that they would be interested in doing, and how you go about supporting girls to even know what sort of projects exist. Because I think right now everybody would just make an app or just make a website, and that actually isn't the best or the most impactful technology for all these projects. So it's both like getting students to understand the breadth of opportunity, and then also being able to pair industry mentors with those students so that they have the opportunity to both create and then also get the sort of one-on-one mentoring that we know is so important in getting girls into STEM.
That's a fantastic set of ideas from which to start. We've tried to capture them each on our etherpad. Just give me a second. I'll make sure that gets into the broadcast chat so we can look at that if you'd like. Just looking at commonality, so that idea of mentorship and feedback and having ideas about where to go, both in terms of project development and maybe like learning and career paths, seems prevalent, and might be something even that the YouTube content could help address. I'm curious how others see it and might synthesize it and think about, is there something that we would like to kind of go forth and hack on together? Are there a few pieces that we might like to tackle as teams? We're getting deep into the workshop part of the program now, so I'd love to hear those kinds of leveraging synergistic and synthesizing thoughts from our guests before we hop into the work.
So I guess I'd be interested in how do we connect the industry, the mentors. I was just at this Million Women Mentors thing in Virginia, where the governor of Virginia declared International Women's Day and Million Women Mentors, and I'm wondering, do they know what the do they even know what the opportunities are to connect to girls, and how do we do that around a project-based learning opportunity? So it feels like, connecting the women, connecting the project, connecting the girls. How do we do all that?
Yeah, I'm glad you bring up that point, because there's also this really delicate balance between pulling in industry professionals and overburdening them, and also like very much scripting what that relationship looks like versus having like just parameters. Yeah, I'd be interested in exploring that as well.
The only thing I would add is I think it's important for women and girls to get a sense of what it will be like in the workplace. So part of this experiment that we could maybe undergo today is, how could a mentor in tech relay to a young girl a project that they're currently doing and the points of intersection of gender inequity that they collectively want to solve? So they could actually be asking the girls to help solve with them in partnership. So maybe it's not so much that we're asking the industry like, oh, just look at the curriculum, let's spend an extra 2 hours of your very busy day. But it could be like, okay, there's a real situation happening at the workplace, if it can be shared. It is around gender inequity or opportunity. We don't know the solution, is frustrating. What can we do together to figure this out? And it could be project-based, but it could also be like solution-oriented. That's one thing. Perhaps that's a little too theoretical or vague for this workshop, but I do think it would be interesting to see, how do you get the two groups to work together?
Yeah, we just did a high school hackathon where we had people from industry come in and pitch their problems, like what they were having problems on, and that's what the kids worked on. So it's definitely a doable thing, but you have to give a framework for it.
So maybe like a good idea is what does that framework look like? I like this. I'm narrowing it down. If you're following an etherpad on line 34 and 35, I think we're narrowing it down to a sentence as it's getting more succinct. But it's, how do mentors go into the community and not just share projects with young women and girls, but actually get them to collaborate and work and provide feedback on it?
Yeah, and I think we can also address the kind of use case that Ingrid described. I was thinking about some conversations I've had with Mozilla's participation team, and one project that we're kind of working to pilot for people especially interested in education is the idea of, and this is rough, right? This is, for lack of a better term, like that flipped repo. So this might be a place, it doesn't have to be a repo, but this might be a vehicle, a tool, a place, a community where those requests travel back and forth. So students, younger learners might be sharing projects and getting feedback that help them professionally develop those projects. But it's also possible, right, that the mentors can pitch their problems, their projects, and look for feedback from the the people traditionally seen as learners in that relationship. I think it could go. I think the asks could go both ways there. So what sounds good? Should I maybe I'll go and fire up a Google document and then share the link here, and then we can dive in there and continue to develop the idea and kind of break out ideas, tasks, different things we could go and work on. Does that sound good? All right, give me a second and I will spin that up. While I'm doing that,
Okay, Chad, I'm just chiming in here. I think you might be muted or I can't hear you.
That's awesome. Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you're great now.
Oh, good. So I had a chance to rehearse. Yeah, I was going to go and spin up like a Google document where we could further break this down and kind of maybe describe and tackle some tasks, and then as we build those, link back to them. And then I suggested in the moment or two that it'll take me to spin that up and share it here and then get it shared here instead of my video feed, we could respond to a conversation happening in the chat on the etherpad that is all about possibilities. What are possibilities and ways that something like YouTube screencasting might be used as a collaborative tool for learners? So if people have experience with that or ideas for that, that might be something great to kind of unpack a little bit here as we get our workshop document up and running. I'm going to mute again and then try to remember to unmute when I come back.
So I use screencast all the time and just started creating my own again. I had been creating and then stopped. And I think it's a fantastic way to introduce concepts and then be able to work more one-on-one with the people I'm working with, once they're beyond that sort of base level skills that you want. So I found it very useful.
Yeah, I actually use screencast too. So I was finding myself answering all of the AP computer science questions, even though I knew I had a fleet of kids who really understood things equally as well. And so what I had kids do was when they were answering each other's questions online to actually screencast it and archive it, and then we made a bank of all of the question explanations so you could go back and watch two other students talk through the same question, which saved my life. I mean, it took hours and hours and hours of time and gave it back to me because students basically had a library of other students talking through it. And it was a little bit more organic because very frequently the two of them were working it out together. So you actually got to hear the misconceptions and then like check each other. So it was better than me just going through and explaining the right answer per se. Yeah, it was a powerful tool. All of these things to me hinge on the fact that kids have internet access both at home and at school. And that is always the I give kids the technology to use, so the internet access is the one piece that's a little bit harder to control for. But I think it's a really powerful tool as far as archiving a conversation or a process or something, just like Kim was saying.
There's a question in the etherpad. It's just, is there a place where we can see where either young gamers using Minecraft or in other experiences as well, sharing using screencast? Like, is there a place where we can go see that? Does anyone know?
Just look up Let's Plays. Let's Play anything. That's all you have to look up.
Yeah, there are tons of examples online besides Let's Play, but my examples in particular, I would want to get releases. We had a closed YouTube page for our class, but I could probably pull one as an example. But yeah, it's not. Yeah. Anyway.
I agree with Claire. It's really hard to share, any kind of online engagement that young people are having if they're under 18. And a lot of the young people we work with who are, redesigning scripts of games, sharing, creating new storylines, creating new characters, if it's gaming, wanting to share their code. I did mention GitHub, but a lot of it, it's like we kind of contain that information internally because of the age group. The older young people that we support, they also own their own experiences and projects in their own portfolio. So I think what would be interesting is to see if we could pull up someone's existing portfolio from our programs and see, like, is there something that shows a shared screencast or a shared series of, their process. That might be interesting, but I'm not quite sure if that is part of the goal for this next phase.
I think we could definitely include these things as future areas for prototyping, exploration, use cases. Definitely capture these ideas. So the document has been spun up and shared just about everywhere I could think to share it for the broadcast here tonight. So everyone is invited to hop on over there. I think the challenge will be, as we enter into what we sometimes call silent etherpadding or silent Google Drive docking here, to continue to kind of do a think aloud. As part of what we want to do is kind of model this process, like, oh, that makes me think of, let me go find that link, bring it back. I wonder if we could do this. I'm going to go make this other thing here, a thimble make, a repo, whatever it is, and just try to verbalize the connection making that's happening as we work, and to link to the resources that we'd like to pull into the project. And viewers, I'm going to invite you to do the same so that we can see what happens with the wealth of talent here on the webcast and the audience. Any questions before we dive into that? I figured we could take about 20 minutes and really just kind of hack away on some prototypes, try to make some visions into realities, and then come back together as a whole group, however we divvy up tasks, and talk about what's been accomplished around 8:55 before we share final thoughts and the hour's up. Does that sound right enough? Is that enough to go on? All right, I'll see you on the dock, and I'll try to remain unmuted. Great. So I'm going to screen share that document as well.
Chad, did you want us to try to start answering some of these questions if we can?
Yeah, answering questions, if there are tools that you use to kind of do storyboarding or mock-ups or anything online, using those tools, bringing those in, linking to them, just however you might start thinking, typing, writing, making around this project, do that and bring it into the document.
Okay.
And we can use things like the comments and just direct either suggestions, comments, or just direct edits to kind of team up when it's like, oh, I'm very interested in that too, or we could try this resource. So let's just talk it out and see how it goes. here's a question we can share out to the audience as well. Claire's asking about a rubric that might help create expectations for mentor and student relationships. So if you've seen really successful programs that have well-articulated protocols or processes for establishing and maintaining and enriching those relationships, please share those links with us. It could be on the etherpad, it could be in the chat. You could jump into the document if you'd like and add it underneath Claire's question or in the document itself.
Claire and anyone else who wants to join me, I would love to maybe start creating a rubric if that makes sense. And we can easily start that below because I think that that is just in itself like probably a really great value add.
Good. Good. I'm going to highlight this mention of discourse as well on the document. And discourse forum platform. So that can be discourse.webmaker.org at the moment. And there are all sorts of channels there where a conversation like this I think would thrive, or as its own topic. So let me go over there and find a place to pose this question to the community that's participating in discourse. We will go into curriculum and start a new thread for the workshop. In fact, I may have been. There it is. So I'm going to put down that we're working on like a community or a vehicle for connecting women learners and mentors, and that we're interested both in kind of and in the different join the work here, grab the document. Oh, sorry, Paul, I will speak up. I'm going on this discourse page. I'm going to go ahead and share the Google document so people can work there, and people can visit the agenda and chat for this episode. Share that as well. I'll grab it and tweet it. Create a resource for connecting women learners. On the
think we're losing chat a bit there, so
Oh, am
I
I
can't
heard
tell.
now? Can
Yeah,
you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you now.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Jeez, my mic must be bad or something. I'm going to launch a tweet inviting people to help us work on this resource for connecting women learners and mentors on the web.
Wonderful. I also appreciate all the ads to the expectations for what a mentor-student relationship looks like. So I think we're getting a list of what we want to start being.
Oh yeah, this is very, very, very cool start. This work seems well in hand. Is there a particular piece that I can jump in and help with, or resources to go look for? I can also kind of plug back into the conversation happening on the landing page on the pad as well. All right, I'm going to go dive back into that chat and that pad, see what's going on, and see if there are questions I can surface that we can kind of think through and talk through as we're working here to develop the rubric and share resources. Oh, okay. There are a couple of great questions in the pad here near line 40 at lines 42 and 43. I'll go ahead and ask them, and then as people are adding to the document, I encourage you to kind of give us your take on these as well. The two questions are a little bit different. One I think is great. So as we think about how this community tool might be used, how might it be used differently in urban communities as opposed to rural communities? Challenges and opportunities in each space that we see for making something like this work. And the second question is about what if mentors shared, oh, interesting, kind of like assets. So in this case, things like case studies, design frameworks, code bases, I might suggest also personas. What if mentors provided some of the design tools that are used in their environments to help students develop their solutions at school or after school programs, libraries, wherever their learning is taking place? So the two questions again would be, how does this work maybe show up differently in urban and rural communities? What are the challenges and opportunities in each? And then what if a vehicle like this was also a repository for mentors to share assets such as case studies, design frameworks, code bases, and personas for students to use in their learning environments?
I think it's interesting, the question about rural versus urban. You know, you'd be surprised if you're from a rural area, you'd be surprised how urban areas can struggle trying to get inroads and pathways and intersections for media and tech professionals to come in to a classroom or engage with a program. A lot of it relies on very targeted and meaningful relationship building, one-on-one building. People move around, following them through LinkedIn, keeping that relationship going. I think for rural folks, you know, it's really important to remember that a lot of people in these industries are freelancers, and they will only grow in numbers. Freelancers who are living in different areas, not necessarily urban, or folks who are very much comfortable using Google Hangout and can connect directly to your classroom, assuming you have the internet and access to a video chat platform. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
And I like the repository idea, and I'm the one who actually put discourse in the Google Docs as a place to share and have for people to have ideas and provide mentorship. I'm wondering whether you can facilitate and do that online in this very open ethos, whether you can put this sort of stuff online and have loose mentorship where someone provides an idea and individuals, you kind of come in and sort of help curate answers or encourage to curate answers, or whether that sort of mentorship actually has to happen face-to-face in a physical setting, but can also be like constructed like ongoingly online as well. But I'm curious as to whether that face-to-face is actually supremely necessary or is a nice to have.
I think the face-to-face is necessary with girls, especially to get them connected to the online community. So, you know, they're not just going to go on and try to connect that way. So you've got to have somebody in the school system or, you know, wherever they are, the after-school program, connecting to that online resource. So I think that's one of the connection mechanisms we got to figure out is how do we get into somebody on the inside who can connect to the girls, then to the mentors on the outside.
Yeah, in my experience, it's been harder to generalize. For example, my students I have 10 students who are connected with 10 IT professionals at an organization that places people all over the country. So some of the people are in the Bay, but 2 out of the 10, right? And some students really picked up a relationship just via email and were able to schedule phone calls, like things far beyond what I had explicitly asked or taught. And then other students really struggled with just an email relationship. It just kind of fell flat. So it's been an interesting, I would say the face-to-face definitely builds investment in a way that clearly just an email introduction doesn't do yet for kids. But I have been surprised to see how the depth of relationship with some people.
So to kind of honor the time commitment for tonight, I'm just going to chime in now and say, probably to make sure that everyone has a chance to share final thoughts, we want to give this about 2 or 3 more minutes of really concerted and concentrated effort, and then we can take a moment to reflect together on how far we've gotten in this work, and think of ways we might continue it. I think there's a lot here that would be fantastic to share, both on the document and through other means.
That's a great idea, Chad. I'm going to go backwards in the way we did introduction. So I think we had, I'm scrolling up in the etherpad. Oh, Kim, you were the last to do introduction, so how about you do the start of closing us out and give us your final thoughts?
Sure. So yeah, I'm very excited about where this is all going. I think that doing the hackathon experience, when we were able to bring in the tech community and get them connected to these kids who are super passionate about technology now, but they want to do something real with it. I think that's a girl thing, but just also a general thing. So I think the more that we can facilitate that happening and getting girls first interested in it, creating tech, and then once they're interested, showing them, hey, there's real-world applications that you can be doing right now. You don't have to wait for, you know, graduation or whatever. So I'm excited.
Thanks, Claire.
I always get excited by thinking about how tech and computer science and this sort of educational space and the web more broadly brings a lot more ideas and people into the classroom than ever before. I think people just get excited about it in a way that, this is coming from somebody who taught biology, calculus, and computer science, so I've done a lot of these, but just calculus didn't pull people into the room in the same way. And I think we really need to take advantage of the sort of industry-facing pieces of education. Yeah, especially for young women, because there are so many opportunities, and in the Bay in particular just sort of smacks you in the face because we're situated immediately adjacent to all the tech opportunities. And now actually tech is coming to Oakland. So for me, the idea of getting women who are in industry to be connected to our kids is just such a powerful way of educating young women in a way that they deserve.
Nice. And Ingrid?
I'll say that you have 3 great resources who are speakers tonight. All of us are, ready to receive your emails. Many of us, whether it's connections to Oakland Unified, San Francisco Unified, Department of Labor, OEWD, there's so many tentacles that we collectively share, and we're just ready for mentors that you might want to send us.
Chad?
Yeah, I don't really know where to begin. This has kind of surpassed all my hopes and expectations for our inaugural episode. This has just been a rare privilege to see this unfold. So, again, thank you to everyone involved. Before I hazard a final thoughts on things I don't want to forget, I do want to make sure we thank our production team again. We thank everybody who made the landing page and other parts of this program possible. I want to thank Paul Allison, who's active in the chat. He's a longtime host of Teachers Teaching Teachers. Then his example kind of provided some editorial inspiration for the structure of this particular program, as did the work of Ricardo Vasquez, Mozilla designer, who has done kind of design workshops and Think Aloud on videos before. So thank you to all those people. And if I didn't name you specifically, know that there's just a giant place in my heart thanking you right now. And I hope you feel that. I would love to see this work continue both on the pad and then be iterated into other forms, and certainly stand ready to listen to ideas on how to do that and to help make them a reality in the kind of beginner to novice web coder ways that I have, and maybe the slightly more advanced curriculum development ways that I have. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Amira. I just have a lot of thanks and humility for being a part of this, and look forward to watching it develop.
I'm going to put us through one more thanks for Chad, just to say thank you for wrangling us all and really having a vision for these calls. And it's really exciting to see what we were able to collectively brainstorm and talk about today. So thank you. I'm really excited at what we've been able to create and develop together. I'm mostly excited for myself to kind of go away and see, just based on some of the last comments, is how do we get people and mentors more interested in giving their time in ways that are relevant and applicable and easy for them. So how do we get these people in the systems who can give these case projects, who can really engage in ways that they think are really applicable but also really valuable. So I'm eager and interested to see how that relates in work, and just to take that away and see if I can brainstorm more ideas there. Yeah, so thank you everyone for participating. I'd love to thank the team and everyone who's joined us today, and the etherpad who's going to join us in the future and joining in with ideas and thoughts, to the brave souls who joined us to speak and provide their ideas and enthusiasm. Thank you. And just a general happy International Women's Day, and thank you to all the leading strong and courageous women and girls that are out there in the world paving paths for all of us in the ecosystem. So thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you.
Good night, and thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.